They say the truth will set you free, but they never tell you that sometimes the truth is a cold, hard tile floor at 11 p.m. I was sitting in our bathroom, the night before our 10th anniversary, holding a phone that wasn't mine. My name is Olivia. And in 30 seconds, I didn't just find a mistress. I found a blueprint for my own destruction. 6 months of messages. 2 bottles of the same designer perfume, one for me and one for her. And a secret credit card with a balance that would have bled my catering business dry before the year was out. Most women would have screamed. Most women would have thrown his suitcases onto the lawn right then and there. But I'm not most women. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I put the phone back on the nightstand, walked into our bedroom, and watched my husband sleep. I let him dream of his perfect escape for exactly 180 days. Because Marcus thought he was playing house, he didn't realize I was building a fortress. And today, the doors are officially locked. Lumiere. It's the kind of restaurant where the menus don't have prices and the waiters move like ghosts. Marcus loved this place. Not because of the food, but because of the way people looked at him when he walked in. He was wearing his charcoal gray suit, the one I bought him for his promotion. The promotion he wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't stayed up until 3 a.m. proofreading his proposals for 3 years. He reached across the table and took my hand. His palm was warm. His smile was perfect. If I hadn't looked at his phone 4 hours ago, I would have thought I was the luckiest woman in the room. To 10 years of love. To the woman who made it all possible. I don't know where I'd be without you, Marcus said. I knew exactly where he'd be. He'd be in a studio apartment with a maxed-out credit card. But I didn't say that. I just lifted my glass, the crystal catching the candlelight. To 10 years, Marcus. To everything we've built together. The everything felt like lead in my stomach. As he tucked into his sea base, he started talking about our trip to Portofino. He was so excited. He told me he'd booked a private boat tour. He told me he couldn't wait for us to unplug and just be together. But I was watching his eyes. I noticed the way he checked his watch every 20 minutes. I noticed the way his phone, sitting face down on the white linen cloth, vibrated once. He didn't pick it up. He just put his hand over it, a casual, protective gesture. Like a predator guarding a kill. Then came the gift. A small, heavy bag from the boutique downtown. Inside was a bottle of Midnight Rose. My favorite perfume. Or at least, it used to be. I pulled the bottle out and for a second, my mask almost slipped. Because I knew that in his trunk, hidden under the spare tire, was a second bottle. Exactly the same. Wrapped in the same silver ribbon. It's beautiful, Marcus. Thank you. I sprayed a tiny bit on my wrist. The scent was cloying. It smelled like betrayal. As he leaned in to kiss my cheek, I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I just looked past his shoulder at our reflection in the window. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was a forensic auditor. And the audit had just begun. We got home at midnight. Marcus kissed my forehead, told me he was exhausted from the excitement, and fell asleep within 10 minutes. I stood in the hallway, listening to the rhythmic sound of his snoring. It used to be a comfort. Now it was just a timer. I had 6 hours until the sun came up. 6 hours to see how deep the grave he dug for us actually was. I didn't start with the texts. I started with the numbers. I'm a caterer. I know how to spot a missing ingredient in a recipe, and Marcus's financial life was full of them. I logged into our joint business portal. For months, I'd noticed small, odd withdrawals, $200 here, $450 there. Marcus called them client entertainment. But when I cross-referenced the dates with his GPS history on the shared car app, he wasn't at a steakhouse. He was at a boutique hotel 40 miles away. Then I found it. Hidden in his browser autofill. A login for a credit card I didn't recognize. Apex Platinum. I felt a cold sweat break across my neck as the statement loaded. The balance? $82,000. He hadn't just been cheating on me. He had been subsidizing a life I didn't know existed. The charges were a map of my betrayal, a $4,000 down payment for a car I've never seen. A $12,000 jewelry bill from a month ago, the same month he told me we couldn't afford to replace the commercial oven for my business. And then, the darkest part. He had listed me as a secondary cardholder. He had forged my electronic signature. If he defaulted on this debt, which he clearly intended to do once he left, the collectors wouldn't just go after him. They'd come for Olivia's table. They'd come for my grandmother's house. He wasn't just planning to leave me. He was planning to incinerate my future to keep himself warm. I watched the printer spit out page after page of evidence. Each sheet was a brick in the wall I was building around myself. I realized then that a divorce wasn't enough. If I just left him now, I'd be left with half that debt and a ruined reputation. No, I needed time. I needed to move my assets where his greasy fingers couldn't reach them. I needed Marcus to stay exactly where he was, smug, confident, and completely unaware that the wife he was gaslighting was currently dismantling his life, one PDF at a time. 6 months, Marcus. You wanted a clean break? I'm going to make sure you're the only thing that breaks. I didn't go to a family lawyer. I didn't want a mediator or a shoulder to cry on. I went to Sarah Vance. In this city, Sarah is known as the Great White. She doesn't take cases, she takes territory. When I walked into her wood-paneled office and laid the printed statements on her desk, she didn't look sorry for me. She looked hungry. $82,000 in undisclosed debt? Forged signatures on a joint business line? Olivia, your husband isn't just a cheater. He's a liability. But if we file today, he'll claim half of your catering brand's future earnings as marital property. You've worked too hard for that. Sarah leaned back, tapping a gold pen against her chin. She told me exactly what I needed to do. But it wouldn't be fast. It would take 6 months. 180 days of living a lie to protect a lifetime of truth. Sarah Vance said to me, "Go home. Be the perfect wife. Let him keep spending on that secret card. The more he spends, the more we can prove dissipation of marital assets. Meanwhile, we're going to move your grandmother's investment account into a blind trust. And that catering business? We're going to restructure it. By the time he realizes what's happening, he won't be entitled to a single crumb from your kitchen." The next 6 months were a masterclass in acting. Every morning, I made his favorite breakfast. Every evening, I listened to him complain about his stressful job, the job he was currently using as a cover to meet Sloane. I watched him buy her a gold bracelet for her birthday using our joint emergency fund. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I just smiled and passed him the salt. I spent my afternoons rebranding. I worked with a forensic accountant Sarah recommended. We tracked every cent. I found out he'd even been skimming from our tax withholdings. He was so arrogant, so sure that I was too busy with my appetizers and guest lists to notice the main course he was stealing. But the hardest part wasn't the money. It was the scent. Every time he came home smelling like that midnight rose perfume, I had to remind myself of the finish line. I wasn't waiting for him to change. I was waiting for the clock to run out. Because on day 181, Marcus wouldn't be coming home to a wife. He'd be coming home to an empty house and a mountain of debt that only had one name on it, his. 180 days. That's 4,320 hours of pretending I didn't know my husband was a thief. It was a Tuesday. A normal, rainy Tuesday. Marcus had texted me that he'd be late at the office. I knew the office was actually a boutique hotel downtown. But this time, I didn't just delete the notification. I sent a copy to Sarah Vance. When Marcus pulled into the driveway at 7 p.m., he was whistling. He had a smudge of lipstick on his collar and a bag of takeout in his hand. He walked through the front door, expecting a wife who was busy in the kitchen. Instead, he found a house that felt hollow. "Liv? Are you home? I grabbed that Thai food you like. Sorry I'm late, the quarterly reports are." He stopped in the kitchen. I wasn't wearing an apron. I was wearing the black suit I used for bank meetings. And sitting on the island wasn't dinner. It was a blue legal folder. 3 inches thick. "The quarterly reports are done, Marcus. But not the ones from your office." He tried to laugh it off. He tried the charismatic Marcus routine one last time. He reached for the folder, his hand shaking just a fraction. He opened it, and the color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. It wasn't just the texts. It was the Apex Platinum statements. Every single charge he'd made for Sloan, the car, the jewelry, the hotel rooms, was highlighted in neon yellow. Liv, I can explain. This was a business venture. I was going to tell you, I just didn't want to worry you with the debt. It's not my debt, Marcus. I filed the papers an hour ago, along with a report for identity theft regarding the forged signatures on my business line. The bank has already frozen the joint accounts. Well, what was left of them? His phone started screaming in his pocket. It was Sloan. Or rather, it was Sloan's lawyer. Sarah Vance hadn't just served Marcus. She had sent a notice of joinder to his mistress. Since Marcus used marital funds to buy Sloan's assets, the court was freezing her car and her bank accounts too. The perfect escape he had promised her was turning into a legal nightmare for both of them. He looked at me, and for the first time in 10 years, he saw me. Not the catering wife. Not the supportive partner. He saw the woman who had spent 6 months letting him walk into a trap he'd built for himself. He looked at the suitcases by the door, the ones I packed with the cheap shoes he bought to impress a girl who was currently blocking his number. You have 10 minutes to get those bags out of my house, Marcus. Or the police will help you carry them. 2 days later, I saw him again. At a cafe. He was standing at the register with a card in hand, trying to pay for a coffee. Sir, it's declined. The cashier drew his attention. He laughed nervously and tried again. Declined. People behind him started shifting, watching, and whispering. He checked his phone, sweat forming on his forehead. Declined. Declined. For the first time, Marcus realized that he had nothing left. The legal battle wasn't a fight. It was an execution. With Sarah Vance leading the charge and 6 months of forensic evidence laid out like a roadmap of deceit, the judge didn't just grant the divorce. She dismantled Marcus's defense in under 20 minutes. Because he had forged my name on a business line, he was held solely responsible for the $82,000 in debt. He didn't just lose his wife, he lost his credit score, his reputation, and his pride. While Marcus was moving into a cramped studio apartment above a noisy laundromat, Olivia's table was exploding. Free from the financial anchor of his business ventures, I finally bought that commercial oven. I hired 3 new chefs. My rebranding wasn't just a new logo, it was a declaration of independence. 3 months after the papers were signed, I got a call. It was the manager of Lumiere, the restaurant where Marcus had toasted to 10 more years while hiding a secret phone. They wanted me to cater their annual investors gala, the biggest event of the season. Standing in that same dining room, surrounded by the city's elite, I didn't feel the ghost of the woman who sat there crying in the bathroom 6 months ago. I felt like the owner of the room. I saw Marcus's old boss at the gala. He told me Marcus had been let go after an internal audit found he'd been padding his expense reports to pay for Sloan's car insurance. Sloan, apparently, had left him the moment her bank accounts were frozen. It turns out, forever only lasts as long as the credit limit. I looked out the window of the restaurant, watching the city lights. I remembered the scent of that midnight rose perfume. I went to my bag, pulled out the bottle Marcus had given me, and handed it to the cloakroom attendant. Keep it, I told her. It doesn't suit me anymore. I walked out into the cool night air, alone, and for the first time in a decade, I wasn't wondering where my husband was. I was exactly where I was meant to be. Sometimes revenge is a slow-moving glacier. It's 6 months of silence, a locked filing cabinet, and the ironclad patience to let a man realize that while he was busy playing house, I was building a fortress. The doors are locked now, and I'm the only one with the key. People often ask me if I regret those 6 months. If it was cruel to smile at a man I was planning to ruin. To sit across from him at dinner while a forensic team was dismantling his bank accounts. To let him believe that he was the smartest person in the room. My answer is always the same. Silence isn't just a lack of noise. It's a strategy. It's a fortress. When Marcus broke our marriage, he thought he was taking the foundation with him. He didn't realize that I was the one who poured the concrete. I didn't stay silent because I was afraid of the fire. I stayed silent because I was the one holding the match. Marcus learned the hard way that a partner isn't a safety net you can cut whenever you find something shiny and new. And Sloan? She learned that a life built on someone else's ruins is a house built on sand. If you've ever had to choose the long game to protect what you've built, or if you think Marcus finally got exactly what he deserved, hit that like button. It helps us bring more of these stories of justice to life. And I want to hear from you. What would you have done the moment you found those texts? Would you have exploded, or would you have waited for the perfect moment to strike? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below.